Well, hello, everyone. I am Patty Neiner, and I don't know, I really don't see who's there, and I only recognize one person here. I'll just explain. I used to work for a program called Pennsylvania Women's Agricultural Network that was out of Penn State. That program has basically shut down. But I was actually part of the original steering committee that created that around 18 years ago. And the purpose of that program was to create networks of women farmers to become like support systems for each other and to help each other. The program itself, you can actually go to the next slide. The program itself would run different, no, back one, please, programs. So for example, the one on the lower right hand was a tool tractor workshop that we did where, because most women, you know, do not grow up with the mechanical background. They don't know how to fix a tractor, or tractors aren't even designed to fit a woman's body. So there are different things that the fellow that did our trainings would work with different ways for women to do, teach all the different parts, and then how to do your basic maintenance. The picture on the other side was at the Women in Sustainable Agriculture Conference that was out in Oregon, and that was just one small group. A lot of those, I believe for the most part, were women from Pennsylvania. There are a couple of them aren't in there that I can see, but you know, so the whole idea that we had was, like I said, getting women together with different service providers, with, you know, different resources that they could, you know, go to for doing that. And like I said, I was part of the original steering committee, and then the last 8 years of its existence, I was doing the programming and organizing that and running a lot of that kind of stuff. I've also been a farmer for 20 years. We did direct marketing of hogs. We did some beef and poultry, and we would do farmers market kind of thing. So I was doing that while doing the full-time job. I've also worked for PASA and for PCO. So I have a lot of experience working with women farmers, and the things that I've kind of processed when Michelle first asked me to do this little bit, you know, specifically saying tools, you know, I was thinking one of the groups that I worked with was an organization called Green Hair and Tools, and they developed tools that were more specifically designed for a woman's body. Unfortunately, they have now gone out of business. The women have retired. They couldn't find anybody to buy their business. And the thing that I realized, being a full-time employee and a full-time farmer, as well as, you know, with women, we also generally are the ones that take care of the families. We have lots of other things going on. I was never really able to process everything. So this past year and a half, I've done a lot of processing on women farmers, why I even got into farming, why I've wanted to work with women farmers. And the things that really kept coming to me was a conversation that I had with the professor that was very instrumental in starting PA Wagon near the end, when we were trying to take it out of Penn State and they were kind of fighting to keep the name, was she made this comment which has stuck to me like glue, and that is, no one cares about women farmers. And I thought, wow, this is coming from someone who started an organization. But in the past year and a half, I've really processed that. And you know, it really is true. It's why Green Heron Tools couldn't get any big business to buy, you know, women farmers aren't a big enough market. You know, women farmers, you know, Penn State liked women farmers only so they could report their numbers to the USDA, you know. But what the women farmers really wanted, they really didn't want to hear. They didn't want to hear any of that. So in that process, you know, I've really come to understand, I got into farming because I love animals and I love the earth, and I wanted to be able to work with that. And I would think about like the days, you know, all of those things that Cynthia just put up there and helping to deal with stressors, you know, are wonderful. But you know what really would like just charge me up and help me get through is like, I'm one of those weird people that when I walked up to do the chickens, I talked to them. And I would like, you know, even if they irritated me, you know, I would talk to them, and, you know, it just charged me up to see that. And then when I got home at night and we would sit down and have our meal, and I could say, this is our chicken, this is so-and-so's bread, this is so-and-so's vegetables, you know, we grew these potatoes. That was like a supercharge for me. I just was like, this is amazing that I can grow my own food and that my neighbors grow food for me. Because so many people, and we would have many kids out to the farm, they have no idea. It comes from the supermarket and that's it. They have no idea. I mean, I'm of your age group probably where, you know, our field trips were out to the farm and we learned where food came from. A lot of kids don't even get that anymore. You know, you get Old MacDonald in the book, but that's still so distant that you don't know that connection to food. So next slide, please. Remember what my slides are. So when she was talking about, or when Michelle asked me about, you know, tools and things and the challenges for women farmers, you know, as I've worked with women farmers, these are the big ones. You know, our bodies are different than men's bodies. And Abby can talk a lot probably to this as far as, you know, we push ourselves to make our bodies do the same thing that men's bodies do. Now at 62, I can tell you with herniated discs, there are many things that I shouldn't have done back then. We just sold our farm last year, and we sold it because my partner and I were, you know, it was the end of, we were getting there anyway, but what the straw, so to say, was we were trying to knock the snow off the roof of the hoop building so it wouldn't collapse. Doing it in a manner that men would have the strength to do because they have upper body strength. Well, she came down off of a 20-foot ladder and is very lucky to be alive today. But that was like, but both of us had that gut feeling when we started that project. We shouldn't do it this way. But did we listen? No, because men would do it that way. And if, you know, it was the easiest, the quickest way to do it. The smartest way would have been to hire the 19-year-old neighbor with lots of upper body strength and testosterone, and he could have gotten up there and, you know, been knocking it off. But, you know, it's like, well, try it first. And if that doesn't work, then we'll get him. So hindsight is wonderful as long as you don't get hurt. And I know I can give you many, many stories of women who have said, well, men can do it, I can do it. To me today, the smartest woman farmer is the one who works for budget to be able to hire that person that has the right tools or the right, you know, abilities to do it. We as women don't have to push ourselves to do the things that our bodies just weren't made to do. You know, another one that is a huge challenge is being seen or heard. How many times have you gone to a meeting and you speak up and they The men talk right over you. They don't even hear you. On the right side, I have like, these are our general quick solutions to these problems. So what do? We speak louder. Or if the salesman won't listen to what we're asking for, or says, why don't you send your husband down and I'll, work with him, you go shop somewhere else. Those are our general solutions. And I'm going to get to what I consider today to be the better solution. Financial. I mean, how many times have I heard women talk about coming into FSA or to a bank, and if it's just the woman, you generally tend to get denied because you don't have the collateral, you don't have the history, you're a woman, how can you make a farm run? So the solution is find a rich benefactor, which very few have been able to do that. And then again, that condescended to. One of my favorite stories was an old boss at PCO would talk about she needed repair on her tractor. And so she took the part down to, today I forget what it's called today, but it was the local tractor company, and said, I need this part. And the guy was like, well, do you need it for such and such or such and such? And she's like, well, I need one exactly like this. He's like, well, why don't you send your husband down and I'll talk to him? And she said, that's a great idea, and as soon as I get one, I'll send him down. But for now, I need this part. And, if they won't work with you, what do? We go somewhere else. So next slide, please. So the thing that I've realized is that we as women farmers have to shift the paradigm, because the challenge is us. The challenge is we go into every situation feeling like how we were raised to think as women, which is take the back seat, ask the man how it's supposed to be done, whatever, you're not as good as. And so we need to start to shift the paradigm. And to shift the paradigm, the good news is, next slide please, you are also the solution. So what I realized about why I got involved with PA Wagon was that their catchphrase was to empower women farmers through education and whatever. But the thing that always struck out to me was the empower women farmers. And so what I realized from the time that I was little and I always felt like I was somehow the second-class citizen, I wanted to help people feel like within them, they have every right to be entitled to step up. Do you know men who are so kind of timid and shy that they don't feel like that they can speak up? We know very few of them. Men just have like an inborn confidence that they should be heard. That we can change. That is not a physical limitation to women. So we can change and start to move that paradigm one little degree at a time by working on ourselves. Next slide, please. Now, I love this slide because, and I was actually starting to feel this, and no offense, Cynthia, but because this is what I've always, all of those things that have been thrown at how do you deal with stressors, they're all there, all those little stones. And my problem is somehow sitting in the middle of that. And I'm like, wait a minute, is my problem really this? Or is my challenge this? Or is it this? And now there's all these little stones of things I should do, which all make me feel momentarily better. But what is my real challenge? And my real challenge always comes down to, I don't feel like I had the right to speak up. And I look at that like, even within that past job, I didn't feel like I had the right to truly force the women's right to own their own organization. And because of that, like I put that, okay, here's the big overscoping Penn State, we always kind of step back. Whereas, you look at the women who have really made changes, they just felt this innate right for women to be able to say, I deserve this. I deserve to be able to have my tractor part, fixed. I don't have to send you my husband. I have a right to get the same funding that a man would get for whatever business project. Now, I might have to go a little bit further in really creating a story, the background story of why I deserve it, because they're going to say, well, you don't have the experience. Well, I'm going to be ready and prepared with everything that I have as my team to be able to say, well, I have this mentor, and I have this, I have FarmLink that can help me with this, and I have Penn State that can help me with this. And, you're going to be ready to answer every challenge that they give you as far as why you can't do it. And, I've never, in all my time, really, I can't think of any event that I went to where even us as PA Wagon, we're teaching women that strength, that right, that innate right that they have to go after what they want to do. And one of the other parts of that in identifying my real challenge is, why do I farm? A lot of the women that we worked with didn't grow up on a farm. They were choosing to farm. But they weren't farming to make a lot of money or to, they were farming because they wanted a healthy lifestyle for their children. They wanted that sense of knowing where their food came from. It wasn't like this was handed down to me. This is what, my dad did, my grandfather did. They were making a choice to farm. And so when it came to the idea of, having to make financial choices, the first and foremost thing for them was always going to be their family. It wasn't going to be the farm. If something happened, then they were going to step away from the farm and take care of the family. And that is perfectly 100% okay. They just had to believe that it was okay, that, this is why I farm. So you can farm and figure out a way to do it so that you have like a backup when something happens. And you can figure out a way, we worked full-time jobs while we farmed. We farmed because we loved to farm. We worked so that we could farm, A lot of families, dad is the farmer and mom goes off the farm and makes the monthly payments and makes the benefits and things like that. One time, a friend of mine spoke to a class at Penn State. First question was, what is a real farmer? And the kid's answer was someone who makes their income from a farm. And she said, okay, well, let's look at that. How would you be able to farm if you didn't have benefits? And you didn't have mom leaving the farm to make the monthly mortgage payments and things like that. So you have to look at it from a very realistic point of view. So maybe for women farmers, dad is going off the farm and working a job and you're there. But don't downplay your position just because you're not the one bringing in the monthly payment. What you're bringing in is extremely valuable to those people who are buying it from you. And that's what you focus on. And that's when I finally left the farm that I realized how much I loved selling that meat to people who enjoyed it so much. I mean, that's the big thing I missed about farming, was that interaction with my customers in that way. Next slide, please. The other thing that I learned about women is we look at this. We are so focused on what the problem is. And, I heard Cynthia talking about this, how people focus on the negative. So we would focus on the fact that that door is closed and we can't get through it. And we never realize that there are 100 other ways out of that container. And we do that because we're also not focusing on why we farm and what we want to get out of it. So maybe all we want to get out of it is joy. Maybe we're doing it and not worrying about how much money we make. Maybe we're doing it only because we really want to be part of our partner's lifestyle. I mean, there's as many women as there's that many reasons why we farm. And so you look at, okay, what is really my problem? Again, what is really my challenge? And then once you identify, like for me, that challenge being, I really, really wanted to help women farmers, and I was so focused that it could only be through PA Wagon, that I didn't realize that there are many other ways that I can help women farmers. And so now, I'm branching off into being a coach and helping women, and not just farmers, but women overcome that sense of, I can't do it. Because as I've learned about coaching, I've learned, man, if I would have had that 20 years ago, because a coach is really somebody who's going to say to you, okay, let's look at what the problem is, and then help you to understand the questions. So back to the picture with the dog and the stones, there's all these questions we never think about because we're so focused on that door right there. We're so focused that we can't see, should I be just doing this, or should I do this, or, I just want to feel some relief today. Please, just give me some relief. But with a coach, you're not looking at just what is my immediate relief of something. It's like, where do I want to be? And how do I get there? Who do I need in my circle to help me get there? And I feel like I've been very blessed because there were people that were brought into my life that helped me to kind of get there. But a lot of women struggle with that. They're so isolated, especially in rural areas. And that's another thing that was so fascinating. Our last grant for PA Wagon, we were trying to bring rural and urban women together. First meeting we had, it was so evident how different rural and urban women are. Rural women are so quiet and so timid and fearful. Urban women they come together and they're like, this is what we want, how are we going to get it? And I was so hoping that we could kind of bring that together, but I don't think it happened. We have made a couple of connections, but it was actually one of the urban women who brought up the whole point that we were missing when we were focused on that door was who gets to make the decisions in this organization. And we were, as a steering committee, we're always led to believe that we were the ones making the decisions, but the truth was we weren't. It was the professors. And so, we got so stuck on that door, we couldn't see other ways to do it. Whereas that urban woman who's been in that super repressed kind of situation. Whereas, I grew up just down the road in Belleville. And, for me, nothing ever felt different. It's just the way it was. Women were always kind of in the background. And so that's why I've learned, and I'm doing it for myself, is to get to be at that place where I can just really enjoy what I do every day and be able to do that of helping women. I need my own team. So may I have the next slide, please? So for me, the real solution is you can just click through all of them till they show up. The first tool in my toolbox is my personal coach and my mentor, because they're the person who's not emotionally connected to me, and they can help me to define that. And I would strongly recommend that you find one. Most coaches will work on a sliding scale, but it's the best investment that I can say. And most coaches today, because of COVID, do Zoom connections. You don't even have to go find them. I mean, you could find somebody in Iowa or wherever to work with you. But the other is have a good, strong group of friends who are there for you and will be there for you when you ask. That, when those stresses come out, or when you're hearing those voices inside that say, oh, I'm not good enough, or, why am I even trying to farm or whatever. Have them there that and you need more than one because they're not always available. So you got to be able to have others. Find other women farmers that, don't assume that you need to know everything. Find other, and it could be a male farmer too. Like, what's a better way for me to do this? Because I don't have the body strength. I don't have the, for me to run that tractor, the clutch pedal's way too far for my height, and my knee is killing me at the end of the day. What are other ways I could do this? Spiritual helpers, meditation coach, your church, whatever, have that in your toolbox, because again, that's going to also give you the sense that you yourself are important. You have value. Get a good team of service providers. And when I say that, like, make personal relationships with certain people, like either Michelle or Darlene or Marlene, and, not just, oh, I'm going to work with FSA or FarmLink, whatever. Meet that person, get to know them before you ever even ask for any kind of help. And then, the other thing, like I said, with the men, that you can ask for help or that you can hire. I mean, we were extremely lucky to have Amish families around us. We got out of farming at the right time because those kids all aged out and married, so we would have had to get some young ones in there. But, as we got older, it got much harder for us to be lifting the chicken crates and doing all of that. So we addressed that in two ways. We bought a flat trailer that was much lower to lift. And then we started hiring these young men next door to come over and catch the chickens and put them up there and, do all of that kind of moving. And then this last question mark, is you're an individual. So look at what are the things that you feel that you need. So if anything, take just a few minutes every day and just sit with yourself and say, what do I need? I deserve to get my needs met. What do I need to be able to do this farm that I love doing? And then the other question is, do I love doing it? If you don't love doing it, then why are you doing it? Those kind of things. But the other part of that love doing it is maybe loving doing it doesn't mean doing farming the way it's always been done. Maybe there's a product that you can create that you really love out of some aspect of the farm. And that little bit will give you the energy to also be doing, I love talking to the chickens. I did not love cleaning the chicken house out. So, there are things you will always have to do that you don't enjoy. But that other part really makes the rest of it go smoothly if you love doing it. And so that's where, and I feel like even now, and Darlene's known me, I feel like I have so much more energy and interest in farming because I've now defined why it's important to me. I did it for all those years, like looking at these little pieces that I could jump on, but now I understand why it's so important and why I want farms to continue, because I don't want to buy my food from, the big factory farms, and, I don't want the cardboard. And then, another part of this is that, and I'm sure probably most people can relate, like, some of the things that were listed in the previous presentation about, like getting different little practices that you do every day. I have started so many exercise programs, so many diets, and there's always a honeymoon period. You do it, you're excited, and then you hit oh God, do I gotta do this one more day? And you go back to eating the way you did, you go back to whatever. And for me, like with exercise, I have to have a personal trainer. I've admitted to myself, I will not do it unless there's somebody there talking to me while I'm doing it, telling me, the right way to do it. And so that's the same with my eating. That's the same with, different things. Like I've taken so many I've started and signed up for so many classes, but I didn't finish them because I was doing them by myself. And now I realize that I need and want somebody there doing it with me. And there's so many women that I know that are the same. I've met a handful of women who have that inner strength and believe that they deserve everything that, every other male farmer, but that's very few. So for me, my goal is being able to impact women to believe they have the rights of every other person. And so that's what's so exciting for me, because in doing that, I'm feeding myself as well. So the last slide, I think it's just a thank you. Yep. So if you have any questions about it or about what coaching, what to look for in a coach, anything like that, that's my email. You can contact me. But I would strongly recommend for all of you, build your team. Have your support system specifically to you.